Hey everyone, welcome to Jesus Is. My name is Josh. In this video, we are going to talk to Marie. Marie came from a very traditional but unique background. In this video, we're going to learn the struggles of a young individual trying to navigate a culture not known by many. Marie struggled with confusion, depression, anxiety. Let's get into Marie's testimony. My name is Josh. My guest today is Marie. Marie has a great testimony how she came to Jesus. My first question to you, Marie, is when did you learn about God?
I grew up learning, knowing about God. Um,
From an early childhood.
yeah,
Your parents. So your parents know about God.
yeah.
Now, do they know, there's, like I was explaining earlier, God and Jesus, or just God?
No, they like it is both. I think maybe
Do they know of the Trinity, the Son, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's more like when it comes to knowing if they can be saved.
Okay. So give us your background. You've come from a larger family, probably. You come from a rural area in the
Yeah.
sticks. So tell us about your background, what you grew up in.
So I grew up in an Amish community.
Yes.
I had 3 brothers, 3 sisters. I was the oldest daughter. I had 2 older brothers. The rest were all younger.
And they were all taught what you were taught.
Yeah.
You went to church. They all did everything you did, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So when do you remember hearing about Jesus? Particularly, was it when you were small?
Yeah. Like we grew up with Sunday mornings. We'd go to church every other Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Every Sunday that we didn't have church, the first thing we would do is like eat breakfast and
Mm-hmm.
then we read the Bible. Um, my parents had like a set, like a Bible set that us kids would read, and then mom and dad would read out of the Old and New Testament.
Okay. Pretty close knit family then. Pretty uh,
When we were younger, yeah.
yeah.
As we got into our teenage years, um, I feel like there was like we kind of spread apart a little
Spread
bit.
apart,
Yeah.
like what you were doing, or just the family.
Um, I feel like both.
Both. Okay.
Um, obviously, like when you reach 16, 17 years old, they have Rumspringa.
Explain what that is.
Um, basically, that's like when you start dating. Um, there used to be, I don't know if there still is. I think there might be one group left, maybe 2.
What do you mean by group?
Like there was different groups. Like I remember when I first started Rumspringa, I first went to a group that was like the guideline. And then there was another group, they called it the split.
So Rumspringa is what exactly? Like you get to do what you want to do, or
No, it's okay. Like the guideline, for example, they would play volleyball games.
Okay.
There was drinking.
Okay.
Technically, the guideline, you weren't supposed to drink.
Right.
Now, so it was more hidden.
Okay.
And then they'd have dinner, and then they would sing at the end of the night.
So when does what age do you start Rumspringa?
Normally 17.
17.
There's
Okay.
some families that their kids do it at 16.
Okay.
Um,
So 17, and it lasts until you get married, or it lasts until you join the church?
I think it depends on the person, honestly.
Okay. For your group, what did you do?
Theirs was more, the guideline was more until you got married.
Okay. So in this time, so you're little and you're with your parents, you're going to church, you're doing your thing. Like, I don't want to call it a ritual, but it's you get into a system. I was in a system too, you know. My parents, my mom would take us to church every Sunday. I mean, we wouldn't make every Sunday, but you know what I mean, when I was younger. So you're doing your, it's not a ritual, but you're serving the Lord the best you know how to do. So when you go to church, explain that experience. It's different than every church is different.
Yeah.
Every like, even the church I grew up in and the church that we're in today is different.
Right.
So explain, like, you're going to church with your parents, and then what? Like, don't they split up, like the females and the males?
So when I was younger, I really didn't give it much thought about how we do church.
Right.
Yeah, the ladies sit on one side, the men sit on the other side.
Okay. But it's more of like an all day thing too, right?
It normally is like, I want to say it starts at 9 and normally ends around like 11:30, 12.
Okay. So you know about are they preaching Jesus in the church?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
The only thing that was hard, like when I started like
paying attention,
questioning more, like as I got older and stuff, there was things like I did start to wonder like why they would read the Bible out of a German book instead of like an English one. Because we speak Pennsylvania Dutch.
Okay.
But Pennsylvania Dutch is like a lower dialect.
Okay.
German is a little bit, so it was, hard to understand when it came to them reading the Bible.
Right.
And they went a lot they do Old and New Testament,
okay.
But even if they're reading in German, a lot of them don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, like we learn German in school.
Yeah.
But like,
so they don't, if they preach in German or read in German, they don't explain what they're reading or what they're saying?
I don't know. I don't really remember.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Like I said, this is not about the Amish community. So we're just trying to go along the progression. So you started Rumspringa, right, at 16 or 17?
17.
17. So you started Rumspringa. You're in with another, I'm assuming it's like...
I hung out with that guideline group until I was 18.
18.
Yes. And then I went to a different group.
Okay.
That group was more into drinking and...
The second group or the first?
Yeah, the second group.
Second group.
More like partying type.
What are your thoughts on Rumspringa?
Now I absolutely have nothing for it.
Right. Why would you say it? Because young people can't control themselves, or is it leading down the wrong path? Like alcoholism, or promiscuity, or
there's some of both. I feel like it depends on the person.
Right.
I mean, obviously, it's not leading down a good path.
Right. So why do they do it? Why do you think they do it? I guess you don't. Why do you think they have this?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I've never been able to figure that out. Okay. I do not know, because I've often wondered myself, especially when I was going through that time where I just was questioning everything. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't figure it out.
So where is Jesus in your life at this point? Are you thinking about them? You're just doing your thing. You're just enjoying. Like right now, you said you don't agree with it, but I don't know if you agreed with it then. If you agreed with it then, what was your mindset like?
It was back then I was basically just going with the flow.
Yeah, whatever.
It was just what we did. It was like it was just
that's what you
normal.
did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So you're in Rumspringa. You're not real. Are you doing well with your family, or is Rumspringa? I don't know why we keep about Rumspringa, but I guess this is a big part of the culture, the life. So is that helping you towards God, Jesus, or is it dividing you? Is it just normal life?
For me, it was definitely dividing me.
Dividing.
And there was actually a point in time that I really didn't even know if I believe in God anymore.
Now you're not in the Amish anymore, obviously. You started questioning things about that time?
I started questioning things. It had to have been in 2018, end of 2018, I think.
Okay. And I think I've known you for 5 years at least, right? You started working
5 or 6.
Yeah, you started working at the pizza shop.
I'd say 6, I think.
6? Okay. So I probably knew you then. Yeah, I remember because you could have gone to our youth. So yes, you were still like you wouldn't have been graduated if you went to our normal school. So it was confusion, and you started questioning things, and I know you in the past you were going to the leadership, right? There's like a bishop, and
yes.
Then I don't explain what the levels were, you know.
Well, there's a bishop, the head of the church, and then I believe there is 3 more ministers
for that particular church.
Yes.
Okay, so your community is cut up in blocks, right? Like
yes,
throughout this area, there's a community here, there's a community here. Do they all get together at one point in time, or no?
For church?
Or for anything.
Or do I'd say the only time. Well, no, they do get together. But mostly if like for benefits or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I've seen those. All right, so you started questioning things, and you said you were losing your faith. Explain that. Was it because you had your faith probably in the people, your leadership, or?
No, it was more. It was more my parents. If there was something that they would use God as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to think to myself, if we're supposed to believe in, why would I believe in this person that is so hard?
Right.
Why would I believe in somebody like this? Because that's not how I thought of God as.
Now, do you think they believed that because they were taught that, or were they just using it leverage over the younger group?
I think more, honestly, it could be both.
Could be both, yeah. I mean, there was at one point in time, you know, when you started going a different direction. I mean, explain that to people. Like, that was probably tough on your folks, regardless of if it was right or wrong.
You're talking about
when you were
leaving.
Yeah, you started questioning things, and you were starting to leave.
So I just had this. Even when I was younger, I actually used to. I always had this fear in me that I was going to leave the Amish.
Fear?
Yeah, because back then it was very wrong to think of something. And I was a little girl.
Right.
Well, like probably, I'd say like in 6th grade or something like that.
Yeah.
Because in 6th grade, I started getting really bad depression, anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But it was about around this time that I remember talking to a couple of my aunts, telling them how much I just fear. Like there's just this feeling inside of me.
Right.
And it kind of like left me like I kind of had forgotten about this.
Mm-hmm.
This is when I started having like questions about the Amish. There was just so much that I didn't understand. And at this time, I was thinking about getting baptized. And I wanted to make sure that I wanted to be baptized in this community, I guess.
So explain that because I don't think everybody knows that. When you're baptized, and what does that do in the Amish community? It does more than just recognizing you're dead to self and you're raised with Christ, because that's why Christ was baptized. He was baptized, and that's why we all do it. We do it as a symbol that you died to yourself and you accept Jesus in your life, and you're going to live alive again.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I thought in the Amish community you were kind of like joining the church too.
Yes.
Okay.
Once you get baptized, that is also joining the church.
Joining the church.
And you do have to join the church before you can get married.
Before you can get married. Okay. And most of your peers, I mean, in the Amish community, they're getting married younger?
Oh, yeah. A lot of times, like by 18, 19, I shouldn't say that. It just depends on the person.
Right.
But a lot of them are married by the time they're 20.
Right.
But there's also some, bunch
Right.
that aren't.
Right. I didn't know if they like push that, or, I mean, you're going through your Rumspringa days, and you're trying to me, it's weird because even me, at that age, I'm confused, and I'm in a normal, well, quote unquote normal, society, school, and I'm confused about things and what I want to do for a living and all that. And I can't imagine, like, you're in a different kind of setting than what you see around you as a community. Like, I was always interested in the Amish and what they thought. It was a different lifestyle. So, but there are good parts about it, I would assume. There's good and bad things about everything.
There is. Like when it comes to their work ethic,
helping each other out.
Yeah. Like the stuff they do for each other, it really is amazing.
Yeah. There's
a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad.
Yeah, that's in everything too.
Yeah.
So let's go back. You're having questions, and are you going to the people in your church and asking questions? And number one, do they like the questions? Because sometimes people don't like questions.
So.
And that's in every churches.
Yeah.
Even the churches we're in. Sometimes, I'm not saying our pastors are like that, but some people don't like questions.
Right. When I first started questioning stuff, and at first I tried to talk to a few people. Then one of my friends was getting ready to be baptized, and I had kind of thought about getting baptized with her. I knew like she would have loved me too. But I wanted to, like, this was a big decision to me, so I wanted to make sure I was making the right choice.
Right.
Especially with me having all these questions and
now are other people questioning this, or is that a no, or it's just you feel like you're out by yourself?
Well, when I went through this, honestly, I felt like I was alone. Like I felt like, but I also was a type of person, I was more a loner.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I know there's probably some that do. But I really felt just so alone. But at the same time, I knew God was like putting something inside of me, like putting something on my heart that I had to figure out.
Right.
A friend said, why don't we go and talk to the bishop? And before you make any, because I told her that I was really thinking about leaving.
Yeah.
And so she finally did convince me to go talk to our bishop. And I just know when I left, I didn't feel like I had gotten anywhere.
When you went and talked to him?
Yes.
After the meeting, you felt like you didn't get anywhere?
Yes.
Okay.
If I asked a question, it was, well, this is how it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had asked about, I think I had asked about, vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And, or maybe this is just one of the things that got brought up. I can't remember.
That's fine.
But he had told me that if they would allow the Amish to have vehicles, pretty soon there would be no more Amish.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of their worry, is they keep updating
their rules.
Yeah. But at the same time, they're still trying to hang on.
Right.
Is how it looks like, and how it felt.
Do you think that's the way it is happening, though? In your opinion? Do you think the young are leaving or staying?
Again, it varies on the person.
Right.
I definitely, like, in this last year, there have definitely been quite a few families that have left.
Do you talk to these families or no?
If I run into them,
yeah,
a few of them I'm Facebook friends with, but I'm not necessarily close with them.
Mm-hmm. So as you're going through this experience of confusion, because it would be confusing to me too.
Yeah, it really was. You're
asking questions, you're getting nowhere. Is that pulling you away from God? I know that's about the time when you met my wife and me. So we probably even confused you even more. I don't know, but I think that was about the time you were about. Like I said, you would have been able to go to youth group, so you were younger than 18 when we met you. So
I remember your wife talking to me about. She invited me to church,
mm-hmm.
and I just...
You wasn't for it?
No, not at the time.
Because of what you were going through?
Yes. I was so confused at this point that I didn't know what I wanted.
Right. That's understandable. So, the confusion, but you were at this fork in the road, whether to stay and I guess not get answers, or and go like everybody else does, or leave. That's pretty much what the decision was, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but you've told me in the past you thought God speaking to you and trying, maybe drawing you more to Him or whatever, and like you said, you had the fear that you were going to leave.
Yeah, I really feel like that was God preparing me.
Yeah.
That this is going to happen.
I believe it. I mean, it obviously did happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At the time, it made no sense to me. But years later, I realized
mm-hmm.
that this was God preparing me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if a lot of stuff God asks us to do gets us out of our comfort zone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. 100%.
So, you're splitting away. Now there's going to be the struggle of the family dynamic. And would you say, so you numbered how many, I forgot how many siblings you have?
3 brothers and 3 sisters.
And half of them are Amish and half of them have left? Or
my 2 older brothers had left.
Your 2 older brothers have left, but your sisters are still?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're all content with everything, and
they seem to be.
Yeah. Okay.
I know my one sister struggles a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She's going through something.
Is she like in that Rumspringa age?
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
explains it.
confusion age.
Yeah.
So you eventually did come to church with my wife and I.
Mm-hmm.
So explain that. Like I remember the time where we were singing, and you're like, we don't really sing like, or the instruments or whatever. It was different for you.
Oh, it was very different.
Yeah.
The first English church that I had ever gone to, was one that I had gone to with one of my friends.
Right.
And I remember going with her and thinking, wow, like I felt like I was meant to be here.
Right.
But it was like a one-time thing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't until Rachel, invited me, and I feel like she might have invited me a couple times.
Probably.
Before I finally decided to go.
Yeah.
And I had to be sneaky about it because my parents didn't want me, obviously, in an English church.
I remember for you. We both believe in Jesus, right? They believe in Jesus, we believe in Jesus. But they also believe that and I think you stated this, that if you're Amish and you leave the Amish community, that is not good for you. So, like
Oh, yeah, they tell you that God's going to look for you where you were born. So basically, if you go out into the English world, or whatever you decide to do,
right,
he won't be able to find you.
Okay. Now, do they deem English, is what you call them, or they call us? They deem them saved or not saved?
Yeah, they do.
They believe they're saved. Okay. I just didn't see there's a disconnect between there, and maybe we won't figure it out because they want you to stay Amish. They want you to stay in that culture.
Right.
So, okay. Because, I mean, I remember you first saying that. I'm like, do they not think I'm saved? Because I believe in Jesus.
Well, the thing is, though, remember what I was telling you. They don't believe in... They only believe, like, if someone passes away, they would say, like, we have hope that he's in heaven.
Okay. So you're on this journey. You're not telling your parents you're going to an English church. God is, I believe it, like you said, God was drawing you away. And the Bible does state Jesus didn't come to... People would get divided. Families would get divided. Mother against daughter, father against son. There would be division in the family. But anyhow, do they eventually find out that you're going somewhere else, or you're still living there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
now I know you were kind of like separate. You were staying at your friend's house.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah. I finally did move out. I remember saying something to my parents, and I also remember coming home from work the one night, and my uncle that lives in another state, hardly ever talked to him. I came home and my mom tells me that he wants me to call him. And I'm just, I'm not impressed about this because I haven't spoken to him in years.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lecture.
Right.
So I did go out and call him. And what bothered me a lot is no one got my side of the story. It was a lot just my parents knew what they were doing.
Right.
And people just heard my parents, what they were going through, what they were experiencing.
What you were probably putting them through.
Yes.
Yeah.
But no one, knew what I had to go through also.
Right.
And he was trying to convince me to go move in with them. And I was like, no way. But I just said, well, let me think about it.
Right.
And I told him, I said, you guys don't know what I'm going through either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am going through something as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just kind of left at that.
So I'm assuming like all this confusion was giving you anxiety. It was giving you.
Oh yeah, when I was in the Amish community, I was on depression and anxiety meds.
Mm-hmm.
They were up like 500 milligrams.
Wow.
After I left, they were down to 30.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it took some time,
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, that is a big change to
Oh yeah.
like go through, and even after you think you're out, there you aren't.
Right.
Like, there's still so much you have to deal with. You deal with
Well, you grew up in it.
yeah, and
it's your
like
it's part of your life.
Exactly,
You
and
can't
it's
cut it
like
out.
a whole different transition,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like you have no one.
Mm-hmm. So, where is Jesus on all this? Were you getting closer to him? Were you hearing?
I still wasn't. I still wasn't that close.
Right.
I feel like that was also the time that I was going through my. I really don't even know if I believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I knew I did. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, you had questions.
Yes.
And nobody's answering your questions, and that doesn't help.
Yep.
So when did you? When did it start straightening out? I mean, did it take? So you're like maybe 20 now.
Mm-hmm.
You've moved out. You're living with your friend. I'm right. You're still working. You have some communication with your family, the Amish community, or friends or relatives.
Yes and no.
You got shunned.
I didn't get shunned because I wasn't a member of the church.
Mm-hmm.
I did talk with my parents. But I know there was a lot of things, like when it came to going to my parents, I still dressed Amish.
But I can see that out of respect too.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
Right. I knew it was going to take time, but I definitely never imagined going through what I had to go through until they accept it. Me leaving.
Have they accepted it?
I truly believe
since
that
you're married now?
I truly believe that my mom has. My dad is still, he's better than he was, but he's still hard about it,
Yep. So when was the moment? So you're still going to your parents, but you're living your life, I guess. When did you figure out what you know now? When did you say you didn't you believed in God, but you didn't? You were questioning things.
Yeah.
At some point in time, that had to change.
Yes.
Was there a specific moment, or was it gradual? There is no specific moment. Explain that.
So I eventually learned that when I started going to church, when I started learning, not that, it was when I started connecting with God. When I started reached out to God, the more peace I had.
Right.
And I just really started changing my life around. I was drinking, I was smoking, it was not like, it came to the point where that's all I was doing.
Right.
Not really drinking as much, but smoking, and I knew I had to change it around.
Right.
Like, I was still getting depressed, and I knew that I had to do something about it.
Right.
I couldn't keep living like this. I was suicidal. it was really like
Oh yeah,
no good.
right. Now, what was your support?
Basically, um,
Your friend.
yeah. Honestly, like if they hadn't accepted me and took me in as if I was their family,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I would have done, because every time I felt suicidal, like she was the one I would call,
Mm-hmm.
and I would go stay with her and wait until this feeling passed,
Mm-hmm.
or I would call the crisis hotline.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this the time they sent you away, or this is after?
This is after.
Okay.
Um,
Because they did send you away to try to.
yes.
What did they try to do? Is what.
Well, for the longest time, like when I had gotten depressed and stuff, I wanted to see a counselor.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to have, they wanted nothing to do with it.
Okay.
My parents.
Yeah.
They were just really, I think they were against me opening up to someone English.
There's no Amish counselors.
Well, there is in this place, it's
Where
in
they sent you.
Lancaster.
Yeah.
It's like a home for like Amish and Mennonites.
Mm-hmm.
And it was after people telling me all the time, like, you need help, there's something wrong with you. Like, they had me really believing that there was something wrong with me.
Right.
And I know for the longest time my parents wanted me to go to this place.
Mm-hmm.
And finally I agreed to do it. My goal was to go. I knew I was probably going to have to be there a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
but that was my goal. I thought to myself, I'm going in, and I just hope I'm out within 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in fake it till you make it, but I'll tell you that's the best advice they ever gave me. In one of my sessions,
faking going there or faking being Amish. What do you mean faking?
Like just basically in one of the sessions,
Oh,
like it was
comply to what they want.
I just remember hearing that,
Mm-hmm.
and I just thought that's the best, dumbest advice you could ever give.
But you made it through it. You faked it and you made it through it.
Yep. And once I got out of there, it was even, my questions were even more like,
yeah.
That's when like those questions really, like I just wanted to know, why do we do the things we do?
Right. You still not really have they answered any of those questions, or not really?
No, and it's like even now they have way more stuff than like when it comes to when I was growing up. I remember us having like a freezer. Like I remember the Iceman coming to bring us ice,
Yeah.
And now they have refrigerators, freezers. A lot of things are solar powered.
This community does.
Mm-hmm.
It's different, and I know.
Every community is different.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're gonna go back to where we were. You're with your friend. You're the anxiety. She's helping you get through the suicidal thoughts, and somewhere it had to start changing and getting where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was it? You that decided I'm not going to take this anymore? And
yeah, I want to say it was right before. It was in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
There was just something inside of me that knew that I didn't want to live like this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there was things that I had, to change.
Yep.
And, I feel like the more I connected with God, the more I, connected with people that, helped me through what I was going through.
Right.
the more I got to know.
Yeah.
And I realized that God never leaves you.
Right.
People will leave you. God never does.
That's right. Amen. So your 2022, I think, is when you went on the trip with us.
Yeah.
So, okay. I didn't know all. I mean, I knew some things, but I didn't know a lot of what was going on. So now today, you believe there's God. You're not really questioning it anymore. You have a family. It's not an Amish community family. So, where would you say how you are doing now? You're still, well, it's a whole process as we're going through this, even for me. But you're doing better, and
yeah, I'm doing a lot better. Honestly, not being in bondage.
and like you said, your mom has accepted it for the most part.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
probably being a grandma helps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like she will call me almost every week wanting to watch our daughter. And like I said, Dad really tries. Like at first, my husband and I weren't able to go over there after we had gotten married. We did. My sister had gotten married in the fall of last year, and we were invited to the wedding.
Oh, good.
And then that was the first time that they had met my husband. I had talked to my mom about my husband. Obviously, we weren't married at the time,
right?
But I had talked to her when we had first met, and like she wasn't happy. But I had also written them a letter telling them that, you know, if I ever do get married, if I ever meet someone, because there was a time where it was like stepping out in that different lifestyle. That's just how I felt,
Right.
Will you ever, will I ever meet someone? And then I just told her that if that ever did happen, I just want them to be aware that I will always put my family, before,
your husband and your now daughter.
Yeah.
That you have. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then it wasn't until after our daughter was born, my mom came over and she helped me for a couple days after she was born. I ended up getting pneumonia, so her and my husband stayed with me and helped, and my sister came over. Actually, my grandma, my aunt, they all came over to visit. My cousins. And it's really something that I guess I never knew if it was going to happen, even though I knew I had to, keep faith that it would change someday. Yeah. People told me that someday, it will.
Yeah.
But there was times when it was really hard to believe that.
Yeah. I can't imagine and I know other people that go through rejection that are very close to me, but I can't imagine that having, I don't know, parents just saying, if you don't believe what we believe, then and it's not just the Amish community, it's in other communities.
Oh,
it's in other things. If you don't believe what you're out of our lives. I just can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's good. So a little girl actually glued everybody back together.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? So you're serving the Lord now. You love Jesus. Your husband does, and you're gonna. What do your parents think about your daughter growing up not Amish? Or they didn't say. Have they?
We haven't really discussed anything like that. Honestly, I think my mom will, like I said, I really think she has accepted how things are.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There's no, now you're not going to be in heaven anymore because you're not in our group or anything like that.
if she would feel something like that, we don't. There's some things that we
don't discuss.
Just don't discuss.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more we've just learned to
accept.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else, like for anybody that's dealing with what you went through, that confusion stage? I mean, just not even being in that culture. Like I said, I went through that confusion stage.
Yeah.
Everybody does, and just that added lifestyle of letting teenagers do whatever they want for a period of time, it just boggles my mind. But
yeah, it's rough. Like it is really, it's not easy going through that.
Mm-hmm.
I know it wasn't for me.
From an outsider looking at it, it looks like they're having fun. And maybe they are. Some of them are. Maybe some of them aren't. Maybe some of them are hurting. And if, like, I don't know, like anybody out there that is confused, you just want them to follow the Lord. And do you have any suggestions or any, like what you went through?
Keep strong, like you gotta just keep going. Just follow your heart and God,
Mm-hmm. Now, do most of the Amish, like in that, they believe in Jesus? Or do they, like, your two older brothers are not Amish either, correct?
Correct.
And they're just doing their own thing for the most part. They're not, like, do they believe in God?
Yeah.
Would you say? They believe in Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I don't know. Does the Amish community instill that strong enough that most would stay in that mindset of Jesus Christ as a savior? And
yes, I think a lot of them might fear when it comes to, like, if they were to question and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them fear how people are going to react.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know when I left, my parents, people literally sent them flowers. It's seriously like almost
like you died.
Yes, yeah. Or worse. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's the way they act. You would just think, you seriously think you are the most horrible person ever.
Mm-hmm.
Or again, that's how I felt.
Mm-hmm. Wow, what a testimony! Marie struggled with anxiety, depression, and isolation. Marie was losing her faith in God in the process. Thank God Jesus wasn't too far from her and kept drawing her to him. Many people feel they are alone, but they are not. They have a loving God that cares. Click subscribe, like this video, and share with somebody that may need this. Thanks again.